Each and every Monday is $9 Monday at wagertalk.com, and all daily picks packages are priced at only $9, including 5% best bets normally priced at $35. As an added bonus, any picks packages loaded early for overnight Tuesday or action during the week will also be priced at $9 until midnight on Monday. So make sure to take advantage of getting these $25 and $35 picks for only $9 before the clock strikes 12 and they return to regular price.
Welcome to the NBA Triple Double Show powered by SportsMemo. I'm your host, Ronald Cabang, also known as UCapper on SportsMemo.com, at UCapper Sports on Twitter. I'll be joined by Moneyline Matt and JM Sports, Jeff Michaels later today. We will be breaking down 3 games from today's huge slate. I think there's 9 games on the board, but we're focusing in on 3 key games here. Before we get into those games, I do want to talk about one of the big promos that we got going on over at sportsmemo.com. It is the Super Bowl to Super Bowl All Access package. This means you'll get all sports, all plays, all 5% best bets from now until the next year's Super Bowl 57, from your favorite Sports Memo handicappers. The deal equates to just over $3 a day, or around $3 a day. The sooner you get it, the better the deal, just because it actually starts as soon as you purchase the package. Like I mentioned, $3 a day compared to $39 for a one-day all-access package at a normal price is such a great deal. It is $1,199, which is $800 less than the regular value of the package. And you can see, that all the cappers over at sportsmemo.com do more than just the NBA. They do all these other sports here: soccer, football, baseball is going to be coming up, WNBA as well. A lot of things coming up soon to go over, especially during the spring and summer. So this all-access package, Super Bowl to Super Bowl, is an amazing deal. Make sure you head over to sportsmemo.com to check it out, as well as make sure you hit the like and subscribe button here on YouTube as you watch the show. It only takes a couple clicks, and it does help us grow tremendously here on the show. With that said, we got 3 games on the board. I want to bring up Matt and Jeff so we can break this down. Guys, yesterday, Tuesday, $2 Tuesday. I don't think either one of you were the $2 Tuesday cappers, but NBA-wise, I went 2-1, I believe, and then 2-0 in college. So profitable day yesterday, profitable day on Monday as well. Hopefully we just continue going in that direction. How was your week so far? Matt, let's start with you here.
Yeah, so far so good. I'm 3-1 on the week. Like we talked about, I've been bringing down the volume a little bit. After our show on Monday, I had one play, went 1-0 on that. Actually had the under in that Raptors and Suns games that we talked about. I really liked that under spot. Ended up being a sweat, but we got that done. And then last night went 2-1 as well. I had the Nikola Jokic triple-double at plus 150, which I was shocked to see a triple-double for Nikola Jokic at plus 150, especially in that spot against the Pelicans. Anytime that he's going to have somewhat of a big body on him that's tougher to move, like Jonas Valanciunas, or they actually ran a lot of Larry Nance last night on top of that. And Jokic was just dishing, doing his normal MVP stuff. He got that trip dub very easily. So ready to break down this slate. Like you said, big slate, a lot of good spots on top of that. So ready to talk with you guys.
Yeah, Jeff, how was your week so far? I know you touched on a lot of college as well. So college basketball, right? That's some of the other sports that you do. How's your week going so far?
Yeah, yesterday, actually, we had a profitable day. We've been on a tough run here lately, but like I said, we split the board yesterday, but it did end up being a profitable day. And Matt, to that triple-double, that hit with like 8 minutes to go in the third quarter, didn't it? If I'm not mistaken. I was watching that game, so that had to be a good feeling with a little bit of time under your belt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yesterday.
I know that a lot of people. I saw a lot of people. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, all I was going to say was my other play yesterday was LaMelo Ball, points, rebounds, assists, and I wish I looked at his triple-double. There's something, and if you're watching, keep this in mind, because LaMelo Ball loves to play the Milwaukee Bucks. I don't know what it is, but every single time LaMelo Ball plays the Milwaukee Bucks, he balls out. So I was on his points, rebounds, assists yesterday, but I didn't look at that triple-double. I don't even know what his odds would have been there.
Yeah, I've seen a couple people that I message a lot with. They were on the LeBron triple double, Jokic triple
Oh,
double, and LaMelo Ball triple double, like in a huge parlay, and they hit that. So it's amazing to see what people can do with these props.
good for
With
them.
that said, let's get on to the 3 game slate here that we have, or the three games that we're gonna break down. First one here, Kings and the Spurs. Kings coming off of a win over the Wolves on Monday. Sorry, yeah, Kings over the Monday. That game went into OT. Third game of a 7-game road trip for them here. Spurs 6 straight losses, failed to cover in 5 straight. Third game of a 4-game homestand as well. Kings are healthy, right? No one on the injury report. Spurs do have Vassell out. Langford questionable. Richardson is probable. Kings have won both matchups so far by double digits this season. Both games went over the closing total as well by a pretty big margin. The Kings hit 130 and 132 in those games. Do you guys see a similar outcome tonight between the Kings and the Spurs here? Matt, let's start with you.
Yeah, so for me, this is it's a tougher game to break down just because of the inconsistencies with the San Antonio Spurs. And this is a Kings team who, when they travel on the road, they're obviously traveling on the road to face the Spurs here. This is a team that actually does not score as many points generally when they're on the road. And then on the other hand, you have a Spurs team where you guys know how I like to do it. This is a Spurs team who has lost 6 games in a row, and they're not going to lose every single game. They're not going to lose every single spread. But again, to your point, this is a team without Romeo Langford. They're going to be without Josh Richardson. They continue to be without Devin Vassell, who I really do like Vassell as a young player, a young point scorer on top of that. And for me, I'm actually looking at this total, and I think it's a little bit too high at 244 points. And I know you said both of these games went over and over by a pretty good margin. But for me, when I look at 244, that's such a high number that both offenses need to be clicking in order to go out and hit this number. And, again, on the season, this is a Kings team who is 6-16 to the under while on the road. As of late, they've been playing slightly better defensively, holding teams to around 113 points per game over their last 3, while the San Antonio Spurs are holding teams to 120 points on the season. I shouldn't say holding teams. That's actually the worst in the NBA. But this is more situational for me because when I look at this Sacramento Kings team, they were up playing the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now they're traveling in 2 games in a row. Now they're traveling all the way back to San Antonio. And I just personally think this is a tougher travel spot for the Sacramento Kings to go out and have a game where they put up 120-plus points, something along those lines. And actually, in the Kings' last 10 matchups, only 3 times have they gone over 120 points while on the road. And yes, one of those was against the San Antonio Spurs, and twice they went over this total. But again, it's tough to do something 3 times in a row. It's tough to have the same game script, game flow, things of that nature. So for me, I'm actually kind of going somewhat contrarian here, and I like the under 244 in this spot. I think this total is just a little bit too high.
Yeah, I'm actually going to talk about the total later on in my best bet section. I do agree with you there. That's a little bit of a hint of what I'm going to be talking about. But in more detail, I'll talk about that in the best bet section. As far as the side here, the Kings here, the 7-1 straight up, 6-2 ATS on the road as favorites. I know in situations as a dog, they have been struggling there for the most part. And you mentioned it, right? Matt, they struggle on offense when they go on the road. But for these situations where they're the road favorites, they're averaging 120.8 per game, allowing 112.6 per game to their opponents. And then on the other side, you see the Spurs here. We look at this situation where in revenge situations, right? The Kings have beat them twice already. The Spurs are actually 2-17 straight up, 6-13 against the spread in season revenge situations. So this thing that we a lot of cappers talk about in revenge, that it doesn't hit the same for all teams, right? Some teams that are lower tier, they just tend to not really do well in any situation at all. And that's sort of the Spurs here. Like I mentioned, in the in-season revenge, you're not doing well at all. Jeff, what do you think about this game here? Do you think it's the Kings or nothing?
Yeah, you guys, I was looking more at the side, but I'm starting to listen about that total. And, I was even noticing a couple of things. But you look at the Spurs, you guys mentioned a lot of the key points that, I was looking at too. But over that 6-game losing streak for the Spurs, they've allowed their opponents to shoot 55.8% or better in 4 out of those 6 games. So they're just not getting it done defensively. And obviously they're missing some pieces with those injuries. But, a couple of the other trends that stood out to me for sure, Sacramento, 17-8 against the spread versus teams with a losing record. And, Ron touched on the revenge situation a little more specifically. San Antonio 4-12 against the spread, revenging a home loss specifically this season. And, we look at divisional records a lot. Obviously, basketball doesn't apply quite as much as the other major sports, at least in my opinion. But, you look at them outside of the division, that may not be something we always look at, but San Antonio against the Pacific Division specifically, 1-13 against the spread. So I don't know what's in the water over there, but it's something that San Antonio apparently just can't conquer this season. But, that 6-2 record against the spread as an away favorite is something that definitely stands out to me for Sacramento. And, Sabonis might be somebody that I'm looking at too. If you're looking at a player prop perspective, San Antonio struggled a little more against those big men, and they don't really have a power forward to rely on. They got a lot of small forwards for Sacramento that are out there playing, that are very capable of playing the power forward position. But they're dominated inside by Sabonis, and that's somewhere that San Antonio's kind of struggled, especially if Poeltl gets in foul trouble. So I do like the Kings, but I could be looking at Sabonis for some player props here, whether it be points, rebounds, and assists, or even a triple double, since everybody keeps tossing it around there.
Yeah, the triple double is going out like candy now. Well, with that said, let's move on to this next game here. The Warriors and the Wolves. Warriors 3-game winning streak for them. Second game of a 3-game road trip. First leg of back-to-back games here. They do have the Nuggets on deck in Denver, so that might be a look-ahead spot there. Wolves coming off of that loss to the Kings, broke a 3-game winning streak, so they were in good form under their team total in 6 straight games, though. So it seems like they've been doing it with defense more so than offense. Fourth game of a 6-game homestand. As far as injuries, Iguodala is the only person I see on the injury report for the Warriors. Cat is out. Gobert and Prince, they continue to be questionable pretty much every game, I think, for the last couple of weeks here. Matchup-wise, Warriors won and covered the first matchup of the season, 137-114, so a big blowout there. Warriors came out hot that game. They took that first quarter, 47-27, and they just never looked back. Are the Warriors just a bad matchup for this Wolves team when fully healthy? What do you think about this one, Jeff?
Yeah, I'm going to be touching on the total a little more in my best bet segment. But, as far as the side goes, this is the 4th straight home game for Minnesota. And you mentioned it, they had won and covered 3 straight before losing to Sacramento, but that was back-to-back games. So obviously that gives you a little bit of a familiarity with the teams that you've played. And, we've talked about it before, kind of flip-flopping when you go in those situations and you play those back-to-back games and being able to bounce back. But you got a Golden State team that's won 3 straight, and they've covered back-to-back games. And, I think last week, Matt or Ron alluded to the fact that Golden State could be due to be going on a run here sometime soon. Oh, apologize. Could be due to be going on a run there. And I think it's something that has started. Golden State does have the edge over this Minnesota team. They're 5-3 straight up and against the spread in the last 8 games between the two teams. But I think, the fast tempo pace is something that we're really gonna see, and that may allude to what I'm looking at later. But it's really going to kind of show the depth of these two teams. And I think with all the injuries and the questionable aspects of the Minnesota team, it obviously shows that even if these guys are playing, that there's injuries at hand. There could be issues with the longevity of some of these players. And again, player prop here, I'm definitely looking at Steph in this one. I mean, Minnesota's 5th worst in the league in points per game to the point guard position. They're allowing over 25 points. And they're 4th worst in 3-pointers allowed to the point guard position, which obviously isn't something you want to struggle with going up against Steph Curry. So could definitely be looking at his points tonight. probably leaning towards Golden State, but I also got a best bet for you guys on this one later too.
Yeah, I would think. I think we talked about this a week or two ago about the Golden State Warriors and how bad they were on the road. They've covered 4 straight road games, so it does seem like they have kind of turned the corner as far as playing on the road there. Matt, what do you think about this one? Do you think the Warriors can continue their kind of road streak here?
Yeah, so for me, I'm actually on the opposite side in this one. I'm with the Timberwolves with the +3.5. And, in this spot, the Golden State Warriors travel on the road to face off against the T-Wolves. And we've talked about this many times before with the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Timberwolves are somewhat like the Chicago Bulls. They're a team that can lose to any team in the NBA. And I think they're a team that can go out and beat any team in the NBA. And with the way that Anthony Edwards is playing basketball at this point in time, playing at home as well, I think he's going to be one of the reasons that the Timberwolves actually keep this game close. And I think this is going to be one of the better games on the slate tonight. This is a Warriors team that is 7-18 on the road and 19-5-1 to the over while on the road on top of that. The Golden State Warriors defense is actually giving up 9 more points per game while on the road when comparing it to when they're at home. And as for the T-Wolves, this is a team that plays better at home as well. The Minnesota Timberwolves are 18-11 when at home this season, and they're 12-17 to the under while at home this season. So both teams kind of having 2 different angles, the Warriors to the over, the T-Wolves to the under. But I still do think this is going to be one of those games where it's going to be a pace-up matchup. And I think both teams are going to come to play with the guys like D'Angelo Russell, Anthony Edwards, the Steph Curry. Because, again, both teams do give a lot of points to the point guard position and other positions that both teams are solid in. You know what I mean? So, again, I do like this Minnesota Timberwolves spot. Again, Anthony Edwards has scored 30-plus points in 5 of his last 6 matchups. D'Angelo Russell is really facilitating the basketball very well. And, as for the Golden State Warriors, if there is one area that they struggle sometimes, it's rebounding, and where they rank 22nd throughout the NBA. In this spot, Rudy Gobert is a game-time decision, I do believe, and that is definitely something I would want to monitor because I would love to see Gobert in that game. He is a difference maker, especially against a Warriors team, because anytime you face the Warriors and you can prevent them from going small ball and speeding up that game even more, I think that's what Gobert does here. So for me, I like the look of the Minnesota Timberwolves here. I think they're playing a little bit better at basketball. They're at home. They play better at home when the Warriors play worse on the road, especially defensively. So for me, I'm actually going to take the T-Wolves here with the +3.5.
Yeah, to me, I think that makes a lot of sense here. I think the Warriors, it seems like they have turned the corner on the road, but I think this situation here is a little bit different just because they're playing on the first leg of back-to-back games, right? They struggle in that spot, 3-7 straight up, 2-7-1 against the spread. Even worse if they're on the road, 1-7 straight up and against the spread, 5-2 and 1 to the over there. If you look at them as road favorites on the first leg of back-to-back games, they haven't covered a single game, and that's a 5-game sample size there as well. They also allowed their opponent to go over their team total in each of those 5 games. And I think, Matt, you mentioned it. The Wolves do well in home dog situations here. 9-4 straight up and against the spread in that spot. 9-4 to the under, though. So that's the opposite of the over trends that we see on the Warriors on the road. If we look at them in revenge angles, right? We just talked about how the Spurs were bad in revenge angles, where the Wolves, they're actually good in revenge angles. They're 2-0 straight up and against the spread, avenging a loss when they're the home dog. So the way that I look at this game here, I think the over and under is kind of it might be correlated. I feel like it would be, if you like the Golden State Warriors, I think the game's going to go over. If you like the Wolves, they're not going to be able to outscore the Warriors, right? So they're going to have to win with defense. So if you like the Wolves, I feel like it should be an under game. I think those plays are correlated. So it depends on who you think is going to win or cover. The total will go in that direction. Any last comments on that one, guys? Matt or Jeff, from a prop perspective or anything?
No, I got my best correlations
game, so we'll get into it.
Oh, both of you guys got the best bet on this? Okay. Let's get on to the next one here, though. This one is tough for me, guys. I couldn't find an angle to back either side or total. I was finding opposites of everything as far as that goes. So maybe you guys can talk me into something here. But the Hawks and the Suns is our last game. The Hawks lost 4 of their last 5 games, including the last 2 games in a row. Second of a 5-game road trip. Suns, they've won and covered in 6 of the last 7 games. Second of a 2-game homestand for them, so they've been sitting at home for a bit. They head over to Boston to face the Celtics next, so the possible look ahead there. Trey is probable for the Hawks, so he should be able to play tonight. On the other side, Shamet, Payne, and Booker continue to be out for them. First matchup of the season between both teams, non-conference game there. One thing I noticed with the Hawks, I think we talked about this before in one of the previous games, but the Hawks, they struggle going from home to road, right? They're 3-10 straight up and against this, and 2-11 against the spread. But in this situation here, they're playing multiple road games in a row. When I looked at how they do in at least their second road game in a row, they're almost the opposite. They're 9-5 straight up, 10-4 against the spread. So they're covering in those situations and even winning outright. They have covered 4 straight non-conference road dog situations as well, winning 3 of them outright. The last 2 games, they averaged over 20 points above the closing total too. So those games were going over. If you look on the Sun side, they're just clicking right now. They're winning and covering in 6 of their last 7 games. They are in sort of a look-ahead spot here with the Celtics on deck. I feel like they want to show up for that one as well. Their defense has been strong, limiting their opponents to go under their team total in 6 of 7 games. So, like I said, I think there's opposite directions on all ways that I was looking at this game. Jeff, let's start with you here. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's one that I'll be watching, and I think it's one that Matt may like for a sense of a same game parlay aspect. But from a sides and a totals perspective, it is definitely an interesting one to look at. I mean, a lot of what I was looking at does point me towards Phoenix, honestly, but not super convincingly. I mean, Atlanta 1-4 straight up and against the spread in their last 5 games. But their defense has really struggled. They've allowed 6 out of the last 7 opponents to shoot over 50% from the field. And, Phoenix has kind of shown us 2 different teams. I mean, their defense wasn't bad in the last 2 games. They did allow over 44% from the field. And I say only because prior to that, they held 4 straight opponents under 43%. So, there could be some correlation to the injuries here, but that Phoenix defense really has kind of stepped up. And Phoenix has dominated their home court, at least in this head-to-head matchup. Obviously, these teams don't play super frequently, but Phoenix is 17-6-2 against the spread in the last 25 games at home against Atlanta. And, one of the biggest things that Atlanta has struggled with, we've said it before, road team or playing on the road, but more specifically against the good teams on the road, they're just 10-26 against the spread versus teams over 500 when playing on the road in the last 2 seasons. And this year, their defense has been even worse playing on the road, 11-16. We have seen some improvements from what we saw earlier in the year, but I think the biggest thing that stood out to me, Monty Williams, since he took over as coach, 40-16 against the spread as a home favorite of 6 points or less. So he's really getting the job done in those short lines at home. And from a positional standpoint, I'm probably looking at Torrey Craig, I think, honestly, just from where they struggle defensively. That power forward position hasn't been something that Atlanta's been able to defend very well. Not as much confidence in the side from Phoenix, but just an angle that I was looking at in a perspective of a defensive aspect.
Yeah, I think you touched on the Hawks struggling defensively, especially on the road there. Matt, what do you think about this situation where maybe we pivot towards maybe a team total? If we don't know what type of offense the Hawks are going to bring into this game here, do we kind of pivot in that direction, or what do you think about this game? Are you looking at the same game parlays, or what do you think?
Yeah, honestly, I'm with you. The team total aspect might be the way to go here because when I looked at this game, I kind of had, the same response to it that you did. I'm not exactly sure what way to go, whether it be, the Hawks side, the Sun side. If I were to go a certain way, it would be a total because it seems like every single team that plays the Atlanta Hawks these days, it just ends up being a scorching fast game and both sides are putting up a ton of points. Because for me, I actually, if there was one team I would go with, I do think it would be the Phoenix Suns, and because of a lot of points that you guys brought up. They're definitely the hotter team at this time. As for the Atlanta Hawks, they've lost 4 of their last 5. Definitely want to go out and get a win. But, their last couple games, they've been without Trae Young on top of that. And as for the Phoenix Suns, we've seen Cam Johnson slide back into that lineup, and he's playing very good basketball. And then we're seeing someone like Chris Paul, who's really elevating his game at this point in time. He's become a scorer once again. He's facilitating the basketball. I believe he's had at least 9 assists in all 4 of his last 4 games. And, so again, they're starting to trend up at the right time. And they don't even have all their players, without guys like Cameron Payne and without guys like Devin Booker, who are huge to this team. But for me, the reason that I go with the Phoenix Suns here is kind of a trend that we've talked about in the past, Ron. And it's when that home team, it's their last game at home before heading out on that road trip. And I believe the Phoenix Suns have a 5-game road trip coming up. So going to be a tougher road trip for the Suns. And personally, I think this Suns team will want to get this home win before heading out on that road trip. It's just kind of getting one more win underneath you before you head out on the road. Again, they've got some look-ahead spots going on as well. Both teams do. So it's kind of, again, scenarios pulling me in different directions. But all in all here, I do think the Phoenix Suns are the hotter team at this point in time. They're clicking a little bit better. Again, guys like Cam Johnson coming back in that lineup. He's a very good 3-point shooter. He's someone who helps to space the floor more for Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton for their pick and roll. And then not to mention, Cam Johnson is a pretty solid defender on top of that. So he's a very key guy coming back into that lineup, and I think he helps everyone around him. And then someone I didn't even mention was Mikal Bridges. Mikal Bridges has been playing unbelievable basketball, really elevating his game, one of the better defenders throughout basketball on top of that. So again, I think I would back the Suns here.
Yeah, I agree with your points there. I mean, for the most part, I think you touched on the last game at home before a road trip. That is something that we probably want to look into a little bit more. How do they do in that situation there? The one thing that I wanted to mention is the who are you talking? The Hawks. Sorry, the Hawks. They've given up their opponents to go over their team total in 7 of the last 8 games. The one game that went under was the game following the game in Paris. I think it was Paris, right? France, somewhere there around like international. So they came back and then they played a slower paced game. So that's why the whole game went under pretty much. So for the most part, I think I agree with you here. I think it's either the Suns or the Suns team total over. That would probably be the way that I look in this one. And we don't know what to expect from the Hawks, or I don't know what to expect from the Hawks here on the road. They're just so inconsistent. So I would look towards the Suns or the Suns team total over there. With that said, let's go to the best bet section now. Jeff, let's start with you here. What's your best bet for the show? Also, what do you have going on over on the premium side?
Yeah, I do. I got 2 college basketball plays up for today as well. This premium play this best bet very well may be a premium play as well. But heck of a deal that we do have going on over there. Use code GAME3 for myself, and you can actually use it over at Wager Talk too for Adam Trigger and Brian Powers. We'll be spending Friday night at the Akron-Kent basketball game. So in honor of that, you guys, 3-day all access pass, just $39 for any or all of the 3 of us, and get everything up through that game too. So I'm sure you'll get some opinions on that going up there, and it'll be a fun one. So looking forward to that. But that's the best deal we got going on right now for myself personally, outside of that Super Bowl, the Super Bowl access, obviously. But as far as my best bet, guys, I'm going back to that second game that we talked about earlier. And, Ron, you kind of led me right into it, that I was looking at the Warriors in that game. And, hey, maybe there is a little correlation between the fact that I'm leaning Warriors, but I do like the over in this game. You look at the last 8 meetings between these 2 teams over the last 3 years, all 8 of those games have gone over the total. And a lot of what I'm looking at is that Golden State side. Their defense has struggled in aspects, but something that we've mentioned a lot, even today, let alone other shows, other episodes, is the pace of play. And you got 2 of the fastest teams in the league here. I mean, the Warriors are the second fastest team in offensive possession length, but they're first in the league in pace, and Minnesota's seventh too. So you got another top 10 team in pace running out there with the Warriors team that obviously looks to never stop running. But Golden State, I think you guys touched on it too when we were talking about the game, 18-4 over under against the spread on the road. But that number is an even more impressive 10-1 to the over as an away favorite. And even just recently, Golden State's 9-3-1 to the over in their last 12 games. I do think that there is a lot of ability to be had. Matt kind of touched on it when he was talking about the players of Minnesota with the way that Edwards has been playing and Russell being able to facilitate the ball. I do think that there's an offensive option there for Minnesota. So, assuming that Golden State's offense shows up like they have been recently, I think that this game goes over the total, and I'm more confident in that than I am in that Golden State side pick. I'll tell you that.
That's a good look there. That is definitely a good look there. Once again, what is the promo code for that package with you and Trigger and
Game 3? So that'll get you
Game 3.
3
Okay,
days,
gotcha.
$39. Yep.
That's all access, right?
Yes, it is. So that's everything that we got going on: NBA, college basketball, and you may even see an NHL play in there too in the next couple of days.
Love it. Awesome. Make sure you guys go to sportsmemo.com and use that promo code there for Jeff Michaels. Matt, let's get to you here. What's your best bet here on the show? Also, what do you got going on over at the premium side?
Yeah, guys, so nothing loaded on the premium side just yet. Definitely will have at least 2 plays loaded tonight. I think we have a great NBA slate with a lot of opportunity. And this week is going a little bit better for me. So I want to keep it rolling into this Wednesday. We hit our last best bet with Andrew Wiggins over 14.5 points. He just squeezed that out for us, getting 15 points. And tonight we are going to go with a Minnesota Timberwolves player. And this one is going to be D'Angelo Russell over 25.5 points plus assists. And to a lot of the points that Jeff and Ron made earlier, I really like this game. I think it's going to be fast with a high total. And D'Angelo Russell and the Minnesota Timberwolves face off against the Golden State Warriors at home this Wednesday night. And this is a spot where the Timberwolves are getting 3.5 points. And this game has a 238 total. So it's one of those spots that's projected to stay close throughout and have a high total for both squads. And furthermore, the Golden State Warriors run the highest pace in all of basketball, followed by the Minnesota Timberwolves running the 7th highest pace in all of basketball. And again, I believe this is a great spot for D'Angelo Russell, partially because of how great Anthony Edwards has been playing, because I think Anthony Edwards is going to get a lot of attention from the Golden State Warriors, and I think he's going to get the attention from guys like Klay Thompson and Andrew Wiggins, who are the top defenders over there for the Warriors. Now, as for D'Angelo Russell, he's going to get guys like Steph Curry and he's going to get guys like Jordan Poole. Far better matchups than when comparing to guys like Andrew Wiggins or Klay Thompson. And then again, it's needed due to the fact that Anthony Edwards has gone over 30 points in 5 of his last 6 matchups. And I think that's a great thing for D'Angelo Russell as well. And that's why I go with assists here, because D'Angelo Russell is a facilitator. He's a very streaky scorer on top of that. He missed this number in his last outing. So I do think this is a great bounce back spot for him against the Warriors, because the Warriors are the 8th worst team throughout the NBA in terms of guarding the point guard position. The Golden State Warriors gave up 25.33 points per game to the point guard position, 8th worst in the NBA, while also giving up the 10th most assists per game to the point guard position with 8.1 assists per game. So again, that's D'Angelo Russell's bread and butter. And with the Warriors on top of that, they play far worse on the road, giving up around 122 points per game and giving up 9 more points per game when comparing it to the home, or comparing it to when they're at home. They give up around 113 points per game. So again, they just play far worse on the road. They play a little bit sloppier of basketball. It's easier to get buckets. It's easier to dish the rock on top of that. The Golden State Warriors are also 26th in points given up per game. So again, it's just a really good spot for D'Angelo Russell tonight. I think it's one of those dark horse plays, too, that not a lot of people are looking at in this matchup or on this NBA slate. So for me, we're looking to make the best bet 2 in a row, and we're going with D'Angelo Russell over 25.5 points plus assists.
Yeah, I think you were half right earlier. Wiggins was a T-Wolf before, so You could have just said
Yes, true.
another two.
Yeah, true.
Also, another thing too, D'Angelo, didn't he play for the Warriors as well for a period of
Yep,
time?
yep. It's
So
kind of a
could be a
revenge
could be a
narrative, I guess
situation.
you could say. Yeah,
Yeah, little revenge there as well. So he could probably look
yeah,
to show them up, see what tell them what they're missing. But I like that look a lot there. Like you said, I think it's a little contrarian look. Like no one's really looking towards him. Everyone always looking towards the Ant. So might be a good way to
yep.
do that one. For myself, my best bet, I'm going to one of the games that we talked about earlier, the Kings and the Spurs. There, I like the under in this one, the 244 under 244. Matt talked about it earlier, man. I think some of these totals are becoming a little bit too high. After that big surge of overs to end and begin the year, uh, there were totals hitting 240 on a consistent basis, and they're starting to do that now. And I looked at it, I was like, well, since we're seeing so many 240 totals, how are things going in those games? 13 of the last 15 instances with a total of 240 or greater have gone under. I think the books are overinflating or over adjusting the total now, and we're starting to see that cluster of unders. And then we're gonna see more totals come down to under 240, just under 240 for the most part. And for now, I think I'm gonna ride with the under as much as possible with these totals over 240. Some things to back that up here. The Kings, Matt mentioned this as well. The Kings are better offensively at home than they are on the road. If you look at their offensive rating, 122.2 at home versus 113.6. So that's a huge gap there as far as offensive rating goes. And that's why they're 16-6 to the under the season in road games specifically. But if you say that they're playing the second road game in a row, so they've been traveling from city to city, 11-2 to the under in that spot as well. Some things that I mentioned earlier that back the Kings in that spot from the spread perspective, 7-1 straight up, 6-2 ATS on the road as favorites. They're averaging 120.8, allowing 112.6. That's under today's total by almost 12 points, 13 points in there. If you look at the Spurs side, same thing that I brought up earlier, the whole revenge situation that fades the Spurs in those games. They have an average combined score of 237.3, and that's a 19-game sample size there. And that's about 7 points below today's total as well. So for me, a lot of things are pointing towards the under. Give me the under tonight, 244. I think it's a little bit too high. Maybe they go over the 235 mark, but under 244. I think that's that perfect range there for that game. Specifically, as far as promos, I do have a personal promo going on for all access 30 days, 179 for that. I touch on NBA, college basketball, soccer as well. Like I mentioned earlier on the show, 4-1 yesterday, 2-0 in the college basketball, 2-1 in NBA. So all that stuff going on for the next month. I think it's a great deal there to be able to get that done. Also, the fact that we have to worry about the injury report in the NBA, it's meaning that we have to place these bets a little bit later in the day. With the all access package, you should be able to get a text message or an email to alert you when we put these plays in. And I think in the NBA, if you're betting the NBA right now, you really got to think about that, because putting these bets in way too early, especially with players being questionable, never knowing certain teams specifically like Clippers or the Heat, not knowing if players are going to play until an hour before the game. These all access packages help with that because you get those text messages and emails. So make sure you guys go to the website. I think like Jeff mentioned earlier, he also has a all access package. The Super Bowl to Super Bowl package is also all access. I think it's a great tool for the all access package to be able to get those text messages. Even some of the DMs on Twitter was like, hey, you sent this, but asking questions because they received the text right away, and I'm able to respond as soon as possible as well. So those are the type of things that the all access package kind of gives you a benefit of. With that said, that is the end of the show here. Jeff or Matt, you guys have any last words before we cut out?
No, I think that's a great point by you. Oh,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, great point by you. Also, when we break down these games and go over it, any of the viewers out there, it is very important to keep the injury news in mind. With the NBA slates and all the injury reports, we can only do with the information that we have in front of us at this point in time. Even when you look at teams like the Minnesota Timberwolves, Rudy Gobert could change the line very easily. Looking at a team like the Atlanta Hawks, Trae Young can change that line very easily. So, we can only break down what we have in front of us at that point in time. And then it's up to you to follow the injury report until tip-off and kind of decide what you want to do with that information. So just kind of wanted to go over that one more time and just kind of talk about it, because this year the injury reports have honestly been crazy.
Yeah, for sure. Any last words, Jeff?
Yeah, especially from a player perspective, a player prop perspective, it changes. Trae Young's out. DeJounte Murray's got a whole different player in that game. So, definitely be smart about what you're looking at. And hey, that's why we keep a bankroll to keep it safe, right?
100%. All right. Well, with that said, guys, that's the 3 games that we broke down. We gave our best bets as well. Till Friday. All right, we have another triple-double show on Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Same channel here. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe buttons because it's going to help us, as well as go to the SportsMemo.com website. All the picks and packages are there. Promos are going on. The live odds page is super helpful for those who like to look at where lines are moving, especially if you look at books like Circa, who are one of the sharpest books out there. Another thing, too. We're going to have Joe D'Amico. We were supposed to have him on Monday, but he will be with us on Friday, and he has been pretty hot since joining us on the Triple Double Show. So maybe he brings some more good juju as we close out the week. With that said, good luck with all your action, and until then, guys, peace.
Peace.
Each and every Monday is $9 Monday at wagertalk.com, and all daily picks packages are priced at only $9, including 5% best bets, normally priced at $35. As an added bonus, any picks packages loaded early for Overnight Tuesday or action during the week will also be priced at $9 until midnight on Monday. So make sure to take advantage of getting these $25 and $35 picks for only $9 before the clock strikes 12 and they return to regular price.